everybody. OVC, I just wanted to let you know that my like you're showing me that you were live was not an option um when I was coming on. So all right, here we go. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the round table today. I'm gonna be talking to some of the candidates, talking about some issues going on in this country. So I did see we have one in waiting. Mr. Peter is here. All right, wait for that to come up. Hello, Mr. Peter.
Hey, it's good seeing you again, Melanie.
You too. Hello, Colin
Hello.
Summers. All right, Britt, Justin. We all the gang is here. Yes, I love it.
Hello.
Cut these cameras on. The latter matter. Is that a candidate?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It is, yes.
Oh, Zeb, yes. I forgot, yes. I didn't have the pleasure of interviewing you, but I enjoyed your town hall. Absolutely. Welcome, everybody. This is going to be a great conversation. I cannot wait. I have some great questions for you all. But let me just remind everyone, including you all, who we are. We are OVC. We are a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans. Look at this panel here. Uniting Americans from all walks of life to empower voters, support candidates of integrity, and ensure every voice is heard through action, outreach, accountability, and education. We're building a stronger democracy, one informed vote at a time. So I'm glad you're here to join us today because your vote is your power. We have a few candidates on. Everyone on here is a candidate. Hold on, I'm trying to get my service right, y'all. Give me 1 second. Lord, this thing want to act stupid. All right, let's see what this should do. All right, so everyone up here is running for a seat somewhere. I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves and let us know exactly where they're running in and what seat they're running for. Starting with Peter, let us know where you're from and what seat you're running for, sir.
Yeah, so my name's Peter Crosby. I am from northern Utah, and I am actually running for Congressional District Seat 2. We have some new maps, so we'll see if it's still Seat 2, but it is northern Utah.
All right, and Colin?
I am from Lawrence, Kansas. I'm running for CD1 in Kansas, which stretches from most of the east of Kansas to all of the west. And we're also looking at maybe new maps at the first part of the year. So we'll see what it's going to be like in 6 months. But for right now, CD1 in Kansas.
All right, so we got Utah, we got Kansas. Summers, where are you running?
My name is Chuck Summers. I am running in Missouri's 2nd Congressional District. And like Peter, they have redrawn our districts and they are being contested at this point. So they actually drew me out of the district. So in Missouri, you don't have to live in the district to run in the district, but I'm not changing anything because I think it's illegal and it's going to be overturned in court. So yeah, for Missouri, 2nd Congressional District.
All right, Miss Britt.
Hey y'all, Britta Aguirre from West Virginia, Congressional District 1, and that is 28 counties. So we split the state in half and I have 28 counties in my district. So very excited. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. Justin.
Hi, Justin Douglas, joining you from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, running for Congress in Pennsylvania's 10th district.
Okay, so you're running for a state seat.
No,
you're running for
Congress. Yep.
Congress. Okay,
Washington, D.C. Yes.
Zeb.
Hey, good afternoon. Is my audio good? Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay, awesome. I'm Zeb Taylor. I'm running for Congress in Virginia's 3rd District. That's the Hampton Roads and Southeastern Virginia.
All right. And Dr. Candice, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I am Dr. Candice Duvieilh. I live in the greater Rocket City area in North Alabama, and I am running for the U.S. House of Representatives for Alabama Congressional District 5.
All right. So we got all congressional candidates here. So you all could be part of the class of the 120th Congress. And yay, we gonna root for that already, right?
We need to be. Yes.
Yes. This is gonna be your people you have to make the laws with.
Yeah.
So we already a step ahead. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do a little icebreaker first, just a quick answer. Going to a Chinese restaurant, egg roll or no egg roll, Peter?
Egg roll, 100% of the time.
You say egg roll? Okay,
yeah.
Britt?
No egg roll, spring roll.
Zeb?
Egg roll.
All right, Colin?
No egg roll, and I still want tortilla chips, even if it's a Chinese restaurant.
I know that's right. Doctor, Miss Candice.
Yes to an egg roll and also crab rangoons.
And I'm with you on that, girl. Chuck, what you have?
No, the exact same answer as the doc. Yeah. Egg rolls and the crab rangoon.
And Justin?
I'm never saying no to an egg roll. Yeah,
I know that's right.
Go for it.
And here in DC, we like probably in the last 10 years or so, we started making steak and cheese egg rolls. And baby, let me tell you. Steak and cheese egg rolls. Get you one if you come to DC. When you come to DC, when you come to DC, get you a steak and cheese egg roll. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and start off with my first topic I want to talk about. Now, as we know, this government is full of loopholes. And right now, this current administration, I'm gonna just mute a couple of people, just because I can hear you typing. But this administration is good for using those loopholes or bypassing them or whatever. When you get into Congress, what loopholes do you want to close? So I'm going to start with Justin. What loopholes would you like to close in this government?
Well, I mean, it's pretty easy right out the gate. I would say banning congressional stock trading would be a loophole that I would change immediately. I would say congressional members of Congress and their families their immediate family should not be able to trade stocks. I mean, they get insider information just by the basis of their job and the reality that they have to be informed of things that are coming to make wise decisions. They shouldn't be able to utilize that information for profit. So that's one immediate loophole that I think can be changed. And I think there's a growing movement toward being open to that. It's taken a lot of time to get traction on that. I think a longer game loophole that needs to be closed would be a constitutional amendment to undo Citizens United and get money out of politics. And I think that's a much longer game. That's not an immediate loophole you can change, but given the reality of money in politics and the ways in which, billionaires are buying politicians and buying particular legislation, we need to close that loophole as well. I can keep going if you want me to say more.
Absolutely. Chuck, where would you go?
No, I agree exactly with everything Justin said. And I think Trump has exposed so many loopholes at the executive level that need to be closed and redone. And he's pushed the boundaries on every single thing he touches. So, yeah, he's exposed a lot of things that need to be closed and redone.
All right. Britt, is there anything you can think of? I'm going to Britt over here.
Those are actually all of my answers. So I'm glad that we're in unity, especially the first two folks who spoke and you, Melanie, because Exactly. Those are my exact answers. We have to stop insider trading. That is absolutely compromised. And we have to overturn Citizens United. So we need campaign finance reform. I personally have seen that already. And I've already only been on the field since June. And I see the reason why, because constantly fundraising is not sustainable for any human being at all. And quite frankly, it's annoying to my constituents, right? I'm constantly having to ask for money. I unashamedly talk about this. So campaign finance reform is one of my big priorities when I go to Congress. And the other thing, I believe, Summers just, I got a little glasses. I think my son is watching. Thank you, baby. Here's the deal. Why is a felon still our president? It clearly states that in the Constitution that if the president is compromised morally, that he is unfit for office. So we have to have folks sent to Congress to enforce the Constitution, which is what I say bare bones for my campaign for us sitting here right now is I want to go to Congress to protect and defend the Constitution. No, no one's holding them accountable. They are defying it openly. And we saw that with the Epstein files release when they didn't comply with the law that was passed. So I'll be quiet. I second and third all that was said. Those are my first three answers up there. And that's why I want to go to Congress, is to protect and defend the Constitution and work these problems out. We have to hold them accountable.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any other answer besides those three? Yes, Mr. Colin. Okay, I'm coming to you.
Absolutely. So the Stock Act in 2012 did a pretty good job of closing off insider trading. Totally agree we should go further than that. But I want to go even further than that and say that any trade of any financial asset, including real estate, worth more than $10,000 needs ethical pre-clearance. And the whole point of that is just to slow it down, to make it more difficult, because nobody should be in Congress to make money. But then there's a smaller thing that just came up in the news very recently, and that was the renaming of the Kennedy Center.
Oh my God.
Absolutely disgraceful thing. And one of the ways they're justifying muting a member of Congress who wanted to object and wasn't allowed to vote, wasn't allowed to speak, is that now they're saying, well, she was just an ex officio member and therefore not allowed to vote. I've done the research. I cannot find any bylaws that say that ex officio members aren't allowed to vote. And this is a position on the Kennedy Center board they get by virtue of being a member of Congress. So if that rule exists, it seems like it violates the statute, which was created to create those ex officio positions and let them vote. And I think that was clearly a corrupt act done just to flatter and glorify Donald Trump. And frankly, I need to see some legal action taken in Congress. I'd also love to see a lawsuit by the other board members who weren't allowed to speak against the board members who voted for that name change for acting outside their fiduciary duties and acting outside the powers of the board. So a very small thing, but in the news right now, something we need more attention on.
Absolutely. Candice?
So mine is more just a broader statement. One of the things that I am campaigning on that is a very big deal to me is when we create policy, when we pass policy, that policy needs to be enforceable, and there needs to be a way to hold people accountable for all of it. If we're creating policy that puts money into the Department of Defense's hands, there needs to be wording in there that tells us how we're going to hold them accountable for how that's being spent. One of the biggest loopholes that's being used by this administration right now, that has been used by previous administrations, because of course, all of this was just that we kind of had this fundamental belief that if you were in government, then you had to have been a respectable person. And we've learned that that is just not the case anymore. So there's a lot of things that we're going to have to sift through and build that accountability and enforceability into those things. Another big issue that we have right now is the Department of Justice is greatly compromised because it's full of people appointed by the president, and there haven't been any guardrails or any way to actually hold them accountable for all of the aforementioned things. Like Britt, you were talking about a felon. These things are only enforceable if the Department of Justice is incentivized to actually do their jobs. And right now they are not. So we're going to have to learn from what we found out now and build that into legislation moving forward.
Absolutely. Anybody else like to chime in? Zev and Peter hadn't spoke, or Chuck, but go ahead, Zev.
Yes, to second what Dr. Candice said about enforcing, like putting the enforcement clauses in there. I went to law school. One of the most interesting parts were things like the 14th Amendment. They say your rights can't be abridged, but Congress is responsible for actually passing the enforcement to ensure that that doesn't happen. And for so long, Congress hasn't done that. So we're sitting at this point where we're seeing a government affront the laws, but then there literally is no mechanism to actually hold them accountable. So I would second that, love that answer. But I would also work to close the loophole on carbon credits, because so often with the transition, they'll sell carbon credits and then you get it. They say you plant trees, but if in 2 years all those trees die and they're no longer sequestering carbon, you're still able to cash in those carbon credits and claim that your business is cutting emissions when it's not. And so really looking at the green transition and ensuring that we actually take into account what we're doing and not just putting it down on paper when there is no real world effect is really important to me.
Yeah. Zeb, I don't think that we've actually had to have Congress enforce these things. Like, this man is pushing the limits every day of what is constitutional and what's not. Peter, is there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, in addition to everything else that's already been said, I agree that campaign finance reform, banning individual stock trades, like I think there's great consensus in this particular group that those are all indications of congressional corruption and government level corruption that we need to go ahead and address. I would just add one other thing, which is I think the current unreliability of Congress is sometimes systematically created. When we look at the, once again, looming government shutdown in January, I think one of the most practical things that we could do for how good governance should actually work is to say, if the new budget is not approved, then the old budget goes in by default. Government doesn't shut down. I have a district where about 7 to 8% of the entire workforce is federal employees. And so every time the government shuts down, we have pretty significant economic impacts directly to those families and then to the entire community, because they go to grocery stores, their kids go to school. And so anytime the government shuts down, our active duty members, their families, and all of our federal employees are directly impacted. So I think we need to have a practical thing that says, listen, if you can't agree on a budget, that's fine, but then the old budget is in place. There are no more government shutdowns. And until we can get to that point, I think that members of Congress absolutely should not be paid if the government is shut down. They need to be incentivized to go ahead and be there solving the problem until they get it fixed, because everybody else is being directly impacted by their inaction.
Absolutely. I'm going to go to Candice real quick, Chuck, and I'll come right back to you.
I just want to, I've got two things now. I'm going to piggyback on what Peter said. Peter, I would take it one step further, because I've posted about this many times on TikTok. I'm a government accounting expert, and the budget makes me more angry than anything else that's happened, because we haven't passed a budget before the start of the fiscal year in over 20 years. I don't think that any sitting Congress member should be eligible for re-election if there is not an annual budget passed before the election cycle. Because my thing about this is the majority of the people sitting in Congress right now have enough net worth that missing their paycheck or losing their health insurance for 30 days is not going to hurt them. If their kid goes to the hospital, that hospital bill, it's a drop in the bucket. They will barely feel it, if they even feel it at all. What these people care about, what people in Congress right now care about, is their access to power. So you're not eligible for re-election unless you pass a budget before the start of the fiscal year. Before you have to pass an annual budget. That's it. If you go out past the start of the fiscal year and you pass it before November, fine, you can be eligible for re-election. But without a budget, no. The next thing is we need to put a maximum on the length of bills. We need single issue bills. A 3,000-page defense spending bill, there's no way a single person who voted on that knows what's in it. There's no way a single person who voted on that staff knows what's in that bill. I put it in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT was like, whoa, that's a lot of information. I'm gonna need a minute. Like, this is not, for me, that's a non-negotiable. Like 100 pages max, and I feel like that's being super generous. If you can't get it done in 100 pages, then you need to break it into 2 other bills.
I hear that. Chuck, did you want to add something?
Yeah, and not to mention that the Department of Defense cannot pass an audit. So we the Trump administration just increased their budget to $1 trillion, and they can't pass an audit. So, a lot of these problems that we have right now is because Congress, that we're going to replace those people, have abdicated their responsibility to the executive. and they are not doing their job. We have 3 co-equal branches of government, and they have abdicated the responsibility. The executive is going rogue. The only thing that's hanging on right now is the judicial, but that's by a fine thread, and they're about ready to be broken because Congress is getting ready to turn on them and try to break them down too. So yeah, the midterms are so important to save our country, to save our democracy, to save our republic. And I've got a little thing I'm calling Challenge 2026, where I would like to see enough people turn out to elect enough Democrats to invoke Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution that will remove Trump and his cabinet, get them replaced, and then get us back going in the right direction. So, yeah.
Look, I'm supposed to stay impartial, but I'm going to do a little bit of before I go to the next topic, anyone else have any input on this? Anyone?
Can I ask the latter matter? I forgot your name. When you were talking about carbon credits, can you repeat the word? I'm just writing it down because it was good. You said something about carbon credits. Can you repeat that? Because I missed it.
Yes. So basically, carbon credits are sold in a way that if a company is planting trees and that's their business, they can sell those carbon credits to, say, ExxonMobil, and then they can incorporate that into their emission standards. But a huge problem we're seeing is that when there is no accountability. So those trees could be planted, then those trees die. They're not sucking up any carbon anymore, but they've been added to their emission standards, if that makes sense.
Does that make sense, Britt? So, yeah.
Yeah, he said the words and I missed it and I didn't get to write it down. So I appreciate you.
Of course, and I
right,
can send you a follow-up too after we get off here. Because it's yeah.
Me too.
No, we're gonna teach each other some things today, because like we from all over this great United States. So something that may be going on in your part of the country may not be happening in someone else's. So we're gonna teach each other some things today. So a lot is one of the major issues happening today is immigration. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to ask everyone to give me their best immigration policy, because I think there is some agreement on both sides of the aisle, on all sides of the aisles, because I don't want to leave out the independent, that the system does not work like well, I'm trying to think, to the best of its ability. And that there needs to be some revamping of it, some restructuring of it, so that people can come into the United States. They can then become a citizen, and they are protected while being here. There needs to be some system. So y'all got a call. I'm going to start with Zeb. Give me your best immigration policy.
Yes. So this one, I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say a kind of idea that I've been floating in my head. Because when we look at the Southern Triangle, so, Guatemala, Honduras, the other countries there, El Salvador, that migration isn't going to stop, especially when you take into account climate change. Like, this is going to be a recurring problem that we see decades into the future. And just an idea I've been floating is essentially building a city near the southern border where asylum seekers can live, so that maybe you're not coming directly into the country, but we have a place for you to come if you are trying to migrate. And this could be done in partnership with the UN, in partnership with countries around the world. But essentially, if you're a Marvel fan, X-Men fan, if you know about Genosha, where Magneto built the island for mutants to go because they couldn't be taken to any other country. And so continuing to have this fight when people are struggling, when they're walking through the Darien Gap, when they are losing everything trying to come here and then just sending them back, it's not sustainable, and it's only going to get worse. And then those problems, like you've seen the deportation of MS-13 members back to the Southern Triangle, they're establishing deep gangs inside of these countries and only further destabilizing them. So the problem is mounting, and we need a serious solution that does something more than just any interim.
100% agree. Anyone else? Okay, go ahead, Colin.
Yeah, so a couple things. First is the best policy is one that works, one we can actually get passed with some bipartisan support. And we were so close in 24 with the bipartisan immigration bill that made it possible for people to become citizens, opened up a path to legal migration, and traded off in exchange additional border enforcement. We only lost that compromise because Trump wanted something to run on in the 24 election. And with that off the table, and with the polling sort of returning back to pre-election views and immigration, we should be able to restore that compromise. I think it's the immediate best first step. We've got to pair it with a civil rights audit of ICE, because what ICE has been doing over the last year has been untrammeled, unbelievable violations of the civil rights of American citizens in addition to migrants. And that has to be addressed, both for moral and legal reasons, but also because if we are going to have enhanced enforcement on the border and enhanced enforcement of any legal requirements, that's only going to work if we know that people doing that enforcement are obeying the law. And so we need that civil rights audit to happen at some point. And it's really got to dig into the street level enforcement, but also the supervisory employees and the supervisory officials, all the way up to Kristi Noem, to inspect the orders that were given, the orders that were followed, the orders that were refused, and make sure there's accountability for that.
Absolutely. Ms. Candice, you had your hand up next.
Yeah, so Colin, I love what you said. The accountability for what's happening right now is definitely a piece of this. What I was going to present is my unrefined, still kind of working on it, but I do have an immigration policy plan, and all of my policy plans are for the next 10 years. Not something that immediately will get fixed, but something that is a multi-step plan to get us there. So if you guys will entertain me, I'll give you my 6 steps. The first one is to review and refine existing immigrant visa options with experts in the field, not lobbyists. I don't want to hear from lobbyists. If a lobbyist shows up at my door, I'm going to slam it in their face. Draft and pass legislation to expand and reform visa types as necessary to accommodate areas where immigrants are kind of falling through the cracks. The next is to review and refine existing application processes. So a lot of people don't know that the avenue by which you apply for a visa to the US changes based on the country you're coming from. Some people it's mail in on paper, some people it's an online platform, other countries it's a different online platform, and the amount of time that takes varies as well. That needs to be uniform and it needs to be standardized. And then step 4, retroactively expedite visa applications under new guidelines that we've established. Changing visa classifications and the processing agencies to make sure that they're going through. And then finally, process new applications with new guidelines and work to reduce processing time to 6 to 9 months, which is pretty globally about how long it takes to process any sort of immigration visa. But I think for me, a lot of these things stem from we have to reform the process as a whole. We have to look at what led us to the point where we have all these varying different types of people who have immigrated here, and how do we prevent that from happening in the future? How do we protect those people that have done the hard work to make it happen?
Absolutely. 100% agree. Before I go to the next person, I just want to remind everyone in here, thank y'all for being here. We are doing a round table with candidates from all over the United States. We have Alabama, Utah, Kansas, Missouri, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. So I want y'all to tap that screen, share this out to people. People need to be in here listening to this. This is what we need for to get our country back on track. So if you have not shared this out, share this out to as many people as you can, so that they can be a part of this conversation. I see other candidates in the comments. So y'all listen in. If you don't get up here today, we will have another one coming. Just be ready. We just get your notes ready, okay? So y'all make sure y'all tapping that screen. That gets us in the algorithm. That gets us on the For You page. The more people are tapping, the more people are engaging. So make sure you keep doing those things. Make sure you send a heart me up here too, if you have not done so. So let's go to Justin. Justin, your best immigration policy.
So before I go to immigration policy, I think probably the best, real quick immigration policy would be, I think James Tallarico says America should be like a front door in the sense of a welcome mat, but also a lock. You know what I mean? In the sense of how do we welcome, but how do we also secure? and obviously there's 100 different ways we can do that, but I think both matter. And I think at times where at least my party, the Democratic Party, has got this wrong is where we haven't emphasized the need for both. I don't know why the lights keep going out and on here, but we're just going to keep going with it. So I want to talk because I'm a county commissioner right now. So I'm a county commissioner in Dauphin County, Pennsylvania. We have about 300,000 residents, and Dauphin County is a place in which a lot of Bhutanese and Nepali individuals have come over on refugee status to make a home here in central Pennsylvania. And this has been a safe haven. It's become the largest Bhutanese Nepali community across the country of the United States. And these are individuals who were, facing ethnic cleansing, that fled Bhutan into Nepal, and ultimately bipartisan leadership from President George W. Bush to Obama led to them immigrating here under refugee status. And we're talking many, many individuals. And it was a commitment we made. And there was an incredibly challenging vetting process that everyone went through to get here. Okay. These individuals, we've had multiple deported, which is insane that we have deported refugees who, one of them, their only crime was a DUI. That they had 10 years ago that they adjudicated in court, and now they're no longer with their family and their family's left here. And what's crazy is they were deported back to Bhutan. Bhutan did not agree to receive them Bhutan agreed to receive them from the United States, but then they kicked them out of the country and they went back. They had to go back to Nepal. The reason I'm saying this is because the human rights violations that are happening right now have to be the very first thing that, at least if any of us are successful at getting into Congress in 2026, we're not going to have probably the capacity with this president to reform immigration in any meaningful, just way. But we will have the ability to hold ICE accountable. And I think we will have the ability to talk about due process and to push and pressure due process. We have individuals that have been, apprehended, jailed, and then immediately green card removal orders and gone before a judge to get their green card removed. And once their green card is removed, then they're set to be deported. Just right up the road, Moshannon Valley, where the ICE detention center is in central Pennsylvania, we've had two immigrants die already there. There's just so many challenges with this. And I think what I want to say is, I'm a county commissioner. I care about public safety for our county. I mean, I get texts that tell me crimes that are being committed at the moment they're being committed. Literally, a burglary is happening right now at such and such place. This is part of my job, is to be concerned with public safety. If ICE or, this administration were to come to county commissioners and say, we want to get the most dangerous individuals out of your community, then we might very well partner with them in that work. They are not doing that. They are tearing families apart. They're attacking people who look different than them with a desire to get them out of this country. I think much of our policy is going to have to be shaped by also the holding accountable and drawing back the American people to respect and dignity for our immigrant and refugee population, and reminding ourselves that we're each, very likely, unless we're Native American, woven into that reality of being an immigrant. And so I think that's where the biggest difference can be made over the next few years, until we get to a place where hopefully we can get to a place where policy is an option.
Absolutely,
Where are you at,
100%.
Justin?
I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, so the capital city.
Okay.
Dauphin County is the capital county.
I agree with everything that you've said, but as someone running in the state of Alabama, if I said anything that you just said in front of a group of Alabamians, they immediately would stop listening to me.
Sure.
The people in my area are celebrating our local police force teaming up with ICE. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But isn't it our responsibility to educate them, though? Because the Trump administration has they've increased the ICE budget. The ICE budget is larger than some of our other countries' military budgets. And it's basically what it is. It's a transfer of wealth, because they're using the same companies that run your privatized prisons to run these holding centers. So basically what it is, it's just a huge grift and it's a huge transfer of wealth. They don't want to entertain legislation and really take care of the problem because he's making money on it, and the people who donated to his campaign are making money on it. And I think we need to educate the people on exactly what ICE is doing, because this deportation program is illegal. It's unconstitutional. I don't know why we're not challenging it in court and getting it stopped like they are some of the other stuff, like the tariffs and stuff like that. It's just, I think it falls on us to educate those people and to let them know that's your tax dollars that are being transferred, that are not going back to you in services and benefits that you pay your taxes for. So I think that just kind of falls back on us to educate the people.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. Sorry, Natalie.
No.
I completely agree. But one of the bigger right-wing news outlets in Alabama, and this isn't even a but, I completely agree. And one of the bigger right-wing news outlets here in Alabama just released a talking to the camera video where this man was saying that they need to embrace it when people call them a fascist or an arist. And that is a hard room to stand in. I actually have an interview tonight with a Republican influencer here in the state of Alabama, not MAGA, just Republican. But I am trying to open those lines of communication, but education looks very different in the state.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm from Missouri. It's kind of the same here.
Peter?
Well, yeah.
I just wanted to comment. So I think as we have this conversation on immigration, and I think as we have conversations on other sorts of issues, going back to one of the things that Colin said and that has been mentioned by a couple of others, I think the reality going into the next congressional cycle is that anticipate we still have a Republican executive, right? Like that's the pragmatic reality of the situation. And I would say one of the biggest frustrations that I observe right now is the deference that congressional representatives from all political aspects are showing to the executive branch. And I want to push back on something that was mentioned earlier. We do not actually have three co-equal branches of government. We have the legislative branch, which is by constitutional design, the most powerful branch in government. And then we have the executive branch and the judicial branch. The legislative branch in Congress is responsible for being the direct reflection of the will of the people. That's how the Constitution itself was designed. And so as we look at immigration policy, or as we look at affordability problems, somebody had mentioned the tariffs, which are huge issues across the United States, I think especially at a very local level, right? Congress has a responsibility to push back against poor executive policy, against improperly deployed executive policy, and against abuses within the executive branch. That should be a nonpartisan issue, because congressional authority is the direct reflection of the will of the people. And so when it comes to immigration policy, I would say that our first priority, as others have said, is to provide oversight and control of enforcement of existing immigration policy. That's the very first thing that we need to do. Then we can write better bills, right? Then we can write better law. But the very first thing that we're responsible to do is to provide clear, decisive oversight of existing executive power to ensure that Americans, generally speaking, are not being abused by an executive branch that has started to slide pretty directly into authoritarian activity. That's our job, is to stand as a bulwark against that, regardless of political background. So that's just, I agree, I think, with many aspects that we've talked about from a policy standpoint, but I do think that's something we should be pretty clear-eyed about. What can we actually do, and what should we do first when we're in a position to represent the people in our districts?
Trying to come off mute. Britt, did you have something you wanted to add?
I would love to add that as we are rounding up this conversation, that we need to address the inherent racism and white supremacy that is in the policies and the actions that's going on. So that's my first, what's the best policy? Well, let's call out white supremacy. It is a harmful thing. It has been a harmful thing and concept, and we see it. That is what is happening. So with that being said, one of the main reasons I jumped into this race is because of the threat of white Christian nationalists. So what I would like to do eventually, I've thought about this, is I want a petition to declare Christian nationalism a threat to democracy, and it must be stopped. And how do we define that? That's a whole thing. We have freedom of religion, I understand. And that is an extremist group. And that's how I feel about it. And that's where I'm knowing these things are coming from. With that being said, ICE should not be masked. They should not have the funding that they do. So we've already named all this stuff, so I'm just repeating it. And we have to address the underlying issues. Again, white supremacy. It's not a fun thing to talk about. It makes white people uncomfortable. Well, for that matter, I'm happy to make white people uncomfortable, especially now, especially with what we see. In West Virginia, we have had over 200 people go missing, undocumented immigrants, and only not that many arrests. They are being kidnapped, and there are rapid response teams that I was on. And I have myself, and I won't name any place specific for protection, but I have went by the railroad tracks and watched. And after hit after hit after call after this is happening, and we're over here, we have a protocol, we know what to do, we have our phones, and then we call so and so, we have packets. I give out to my local immigrant folk who are right across the street from me at the Mexican restaurant. So when we address all of this, we have to talk about the uncomfortable things. Okay? And that's what I want to say, because the threat in this democracy are not transgender people, and they're not the undocumented immigrants. It's the white supremacists who are using this as a platform and getting their way, unfortunately. I don't like it. I've been speaking about it. I went on a decolonization journey 2 years ago, and I'm still on that journey. And we have to have accountability. We have to be able to have these conversations. And with that being said, we have to have accountability for police. That is when ICE, they are a paramilitary force, like the folks, the Nazis. Okay, it's mirrored in the book on tyranny. The only thing keeping us from being a complete authoritarian state is that we supposedly, like what Peter just talked about, when other folks talked, we supposedly have equal branches of government, and we are not a one-party state, but we are almost a supermajority. Okay, in West Virginia, we are a supermajority. We are, as in the GOP is we have a supermajority. We are almost a supermajority in the federal government. We are in the state. So I'm trying to clarify what I was saying. So that's scary. We are one step away from being pure authoritarian, and I do not consent. And that's why we're all here today. So ICE must be stopped. With that being said, my last name is pronounced Aguirre here, but it's actually Aguirre, and it's supposed to roll the R's because my great-grandfather immigrated here from Spain. Yeah, I can't do it. And you know why I cannot do it? And this is a direct quote from my grandfather. They quit putting, and this goes back to white supremacy, and I'm going to talk about it, is my grandfather quit putting Hispanic, marking that box Hispanic, because, quote, white people were treated better. Yeah. And because I'm white presenting, my skin is lighter, and his skin was lighter, we could mark that. And from there, again, that completely repressed my heritage. Again, my last name is pronounced differently now. We have got to understand that. And how do we do that? We have to education. We have to overcome propaganda. Propaganda is a big deal. We see that again. We're reflected from World War II. Propaganda was horrible in Germany. And now with social media and all the things, we have to educate people. We have to teach people. We have to have conversations like this. And when I'm speaking like this, it's a little bit of a calling out. But when we have conversations and we're talking about racism and white supremacy and white fragility, we have to call people in. We have to notice when people shut down so we can have these conversations. You see what I mean? Yeah. And lastly, our prisons here in West Virginia, they're overcrowded because of this enforcement of these contracts with ICE that our governor, our carpetbagger, bootlicker governor, that he made with the federal government. Our prisons are overcrowded, and you can find reports on that. This must be stopped. Someone said, like, when we go in, midterms were elected, we're not gonna, we will have to It will be a long shot, someone said. So I agree with that. So the things that I would like to see again is we have to unmask ICE, we have to re-educate the people, and we need to classify what needs to be classified, which is we need to talk about white supremacy more, and that's going to piss a lot of people off, and I'm happy to do that because I think we need to we need to make fascists and white supremacists mad because that's the only way we're going to do it. And I know that was a little bit preachy and all that stuff, but we're seeing natural born citizens who were born here and their parents, they're trying to go after them. And the president has children like that.
Yes.
And it's wild. So the enemy is within, and he said that himself. So I'm gonna stop there. Those are my 2 cents, 10 cents, however you want to call it. Thanks for asking.
They're
Y'all, if y'all
deporting
didn't know,
veterans.
y'all learned today. Miss
Yeah.
Britt is a Spitfire, and she is going to be fighting a light
Love
alongside
it.
with you all.
I was
So
about
what
to
you
say,
going
that
to say,
was
Chuck?
that was
I was saying they're actually
Like,
they're
that
deporting
was-
veterans. That's how
Yeah.
bad it
Yeah.
is. And the Supreme Court has just come down with a ruling that allows them to racially profile people so they can stop them with no due process. They just don't like the way they look. They can drag them down, throw them in a van, haul them off, no due process, no hearing, no nothing, and just set them off to a foreign gulag. So, yeah, I mean, Supreme Court reform is another thing we really need to address, too.
Did y'all know
Absolutely.
that statistically speaking, that an ICE agent has a criminal history, statistically speaking, more likely to have a criminal history than the folks they arrest?
Yeah, a lot of them are Jan Sixers.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Back in August, Alabama at the state level beat them to it and actually passed a law that requires police officers to stop a vehicle if they see someone who is profilable in that way. Like
Oh, wow.
back in August, Alabama was just playing their proper little,
Wow.
bootstrap part.
And the last thing I'd like to
it's a
add is there's
nightmare.
no humane deportation. There is no humane deportation. We are a nation built on stolen land, built by stolen hands. So we need to go all the way back to the beginning and talk about that and talk about the Native Americans and what we did to them. We are a nation built on genocide. Sorry, not sorry. So we've been doing this for a long time, and we have to have voices like ours to say that. And now I will be quiet. I apologize.
Okay. Let me just make sure everyone up here is running as a Democrat, or do I have some independents?
Democrat.
All Democrats. Okay, so yes, we have a Democratic panel here. Someone asked in the comments. That was excellent. And it goes right into my next thing about diversity. Let's say this here. This is just a snippet of the 120th Congress. Would you include myself? Would you say that this is diverse? Raise your hand if you think that this would constitute as diverse.
I think we're getting close.
Okay, so no hands raised. Okay, I just want to see if we all were on the same page, because we do still have 4 white men, and while we're not trying to negate you all either, you are as much a part of this conversation as any of the rest of us. I feel like we might still need a little more of something else going on in within this picture. But like I said, I just wanted to see where we all were.
One thing to
No
point
shade,
out,
no shade to
just-
the white men. We
Right.
we love a good ally.
What you gonna say,
What we're
Colin?
hearing a lot right now is people pretending that white men are being attacked when someone asks a question like, is this a diverse group? And it's worth pointing out, no, that's not an attack. White men are not under attack. Diversity is not an attack on
Colin,
white
have you
men.
seen the
Diversity is
message
not a
from the
crime in itself.
EEOC?
Oh, God, the change in enforcement priorities is heartbreaking. The EEOC used to do really incredibly good work. I teach business law and ethics at the university level, and I used to tell my students the EEOC is out there every single day fighting to make sure your business is better. Even if you're not the person making the complaint, your business is better because the EEOC is out there improving your workforce, improving your rights, improving the rights of everybody working there. And now they're just
Well,
likely to be
I
waiting
mean,
on
no, there was a video message made by the director of the EEOC, a white woman,
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
who made a call to white men to apply if you have been a victim of racial discrimination based on your race or gender. And the timing for filing is short. So make sure you get this in as soon as possible. This is her message that she just sent out. That's where we are in this country right now, unfortunately. So my question is, what is the Democratic Party's message? What is our message? Because I often, who is that? Who's typing? That's you. I don't know why I could hear you though. You was on mute. But I hear a lot, and I often say to people, matter of fact, let me show y'all one of my favorite things. I said, this is the, let me see if I can put this on the big screen. Hold on. One of our members put this together, right? So it says, all the big, scary, radical left agenda: equality, education, healthcare, voting rights, clean air and water, reproductive freedom, and love wins. Terrifying, isn't it? Would y'all agree? Is this our message? And if it is, how do we get this across? How do we stop being labeled pro ABs? Because no one's saying, we just say it's the woman's choice, reproductive freedom, your freedom to make that choice. Well, how do we stop getting labeled that, we want everyone to be a T person? Like, how do we get this message out that this is the agenda, not what you all are trying to say we are? And I'm going to start with Peter because he's been a little quiet. So go ahead, Peter.
This is, I think, one of those points where we probably need to have some candid conversations. And I appreciate Dr. Candice in Alabama. I lived down there for a couple of years earlier in my life, and Justin in Pennsylvania, and maybe some other candidates that are not running in places that are what I would call traditionally liberal. All right, so I live in northern Utah. We are not what we would identify as traditionally liberal. And when we talk about messaging, I really think the core concern right now needs to be focused on what people actually need. And that core message, quite frankly, is one of affordability. We can have lots of other conversations about things that we care about, but at the end of the day, if a person doesn't have food to eat, if they don't have a safe place to sleep, if they don't have access to clothing, if they don't have a job that helps pay the bills, if they aren't able to do the things that they need to do to be human, right? Like not just survive, but to actually live and to thrive. I'm afraid that a lot of this other conversational stuff is just a distraction from the core concerns that at least people in my district have, right? So if I look at messaging for my district, we need to be really, really laser focused on how can we help you make your life better? Because the last year and a half has not made your life better. It hasn't. The last year under the Trump administration with a Republican-controlled Congress and the House and the Senate has led to increases in what it costs you to live your daily life. It has led to problems with abuses of authority that make you feel unsafe about what comes next, right? It makes you worried about the future of your children and your grandchildren. Those are the concerns that from a democratic messaging standpoint that we really need to focus on first. All of this other stuff exists because we have a really big tent. And I think that is awesome. Like I genuinely do. I think it is awesome that we have a really large collection of people from different backgrounds and experiences and ideas coming together to have conversations about what we want the future to look like. Those are important conversations to have, but we can't have them with people that we care and support about, that we're supposed to be responsible to, if their basic needs are not being met. And so honestly, like candidly, Melanie, my very first message from a Democratic platform standpoint is I am here to make sure that you have food on your table. I'm here to make sure that you have access to a good job. I'm here to make sure that your children can get an education that allows them to build a better future than you had. And I am here to support policies that are going to make sure that we are people first, not corporate first. Like that's our message, right? We are here to help support American people, not corporations, which is what we have seen happen, especially over this last year. So I know others might disagree with me in this particular group, but that really, from my perspective, like That's my message. That's the Democratic message that helps people understand who we are and what we're trying to accomplish.
Yes.
I agree with everything that you just said, Peter, but for me as a candidate, I wrap it up into one single statement, and that is I will not support any legislation that creates exceptions for some human beings and not others. The state of Alabama, it is more dangerous and life-threatening to be pregnant in the state of Alabama than it is anywhere else in this country, and it's even worse if you're a Black woman. I will not support any legislation that makes exceptions for specific human beings over others. Everyone deserves access to the standard of care recommended by the global medical community that their doctor prescribes to them, period.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Zeb?
Yes. So I actually think about this a lot. Particularly how you said not being labeled as, pro A, trying to make everybody a T or whatnot.
And add in that we don't want to take the pew-pews away either. I know a lot of pew-pew toting Democrats, okay? But somehow we just want to, well, me, I'm going to speak for myself. I do. I want them all gone. But I'm not running. So I'm just saying. Go ahead, Zeb.
Yes. I think a big issue is that we keep sending sheep into the lion's den to do a job that they're not equipped for. So when they get labeled all of these, you're pro A, they're reluctant to stand their ground and say, no, I'm not. I just want people to be able to do with their bodies what they choose to do with their bodies. And I was an organizer at Planned Parenthood, and it was funny in my ability to talk about that before and after I worked there, because it was so ingrained to you that it's just, I can't say it up here, but it's just AAA, say it. People understand if they need one, if they don't need one. And when you're pushed into this dynamic and the propaganda and the machine that's been built on the right wing with, Fox, OAN, all of those things constantly pushing that message, think about how often you actually see people standing up there to fight back against it. It was a serious decision made by Democrats to stop going on Fox News. And I think that kind of bit us in the butt, to be honest, because it allowed all of that to just go on for 24 hours. Whereas if you had people booked every show saying, we never said that, you made that up, you can't provide any proof, but here's the proof of all of the white men that love to grab a gun and commit mass pew-pews all across the country. So why are you applying that logic in one situation, but you're not applying it in another? Why are you picking and choosing, to Dr. Candice's point about how you want to apply these logical decisions that you have and these ultimatums that you've decided to put on other people? And being afraid to have those conversations is kind of pushing us into a corner where at this point we need to clap back, essentially, and stand on business and say, we're just about the freedom for everyone and we're not trying to dictate how anybody else lives their life. And it goes both ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, we got some trolls that showed up. That means we doing good, y'all, because the trolls that showed up in the chat. So we're gonna keep this going, but I guess my question really is like, I personally, for one, as a regular everyday American citizen, I really truly believe our message should not focus so much on what they are doing, but what we will do. I really do. While we do have to implement some of the things that's like, look, this is what's happening here, especially for Miss Candice, who's in Alabama. She has to show them what they're doing right now, but not just say, oh, but that's bad, bad, bad. And so vote for me. You're going to have to figure out how you're going to let them know what you have to give them that is better than this. Yeah, go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, so I think this all has to be framed in the reality that the Democratic Party is currently in an identity crisis. And I just think it's really good to frame it that way because it is an identity crisis. You have young Democrats, which I'm 41. I don't consider myself young, but I'm young when, 80-year-old is still, many 80-year-olds are still running the country. And so I just think it's really important to realize that there's been so much gatekeeping for so long that any trend down in age and getting younger people in becomes this radical thing. And it's only radical because you've gatekeeped for so long. And so like this trend that's happening where they're like, we're having trouble connecting to young people in the party, or young people who identify as progressive are actually some of the most people at the Democratic Party right now. Like, and so like, I just think we have to start there. And we're not going to get everybody on the same page about every issue, because there's a lot of issues that obviously in Pennsylvania where I'm at, and in Alabama and in Utah, there's going to be different perspectives from Democrats all over. But I do think we can rally around the reality of reclaiming a message that connects with the working class and the working poor. And this is where the Democrats historically have been the strongest, when they've connected with working class individuals and working poor and defended them and rushed to their defense. And when they get in power, run up the score for that group, like not lay off because, we got enough. And look, everybody has their opinions on Biden. Biden chose to tackle infrastructure. That's going to be the big thing that he did when we look from a policy perspective and an investment perspective. And right here in Harrisburg, we have the Susquehanna River that goes through. We got a new bridge that's in the process of being built. I'm excited about that for my region, but that bridge isn't going to be done for another 6 years. Like, infrastructure is not something that people realize immediately. It's necessary. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's actually a major investment in this region, and it's going to be incredibly helpful. But it takes so long to actualize that people can't really see how you've changed their lives. And so we have to have policies that are going to be immediate. They're going to have an immediate benefit. And so that's where I think we need to talk about things like the fact that I'm 41 years old. I have a master's degree. I was the first in my family to go to college. I will be paying student loan debt when my current 16-year-old goes to college. I'll be paying student loan debt, and I'll probably be co-signing on loans for her. And it's like, how do we make the American dream possible again? Because I'm sitting here looking at, first of all, even if she goes and gets a 4-year degree, there's nothing stopping her from probably just a life as a barista in this particular economy. Like, and nothing against being a barista. I'm just saying, like, you can go to school with a desire for a job that doesn't exist when you get out. And we got to stop this like debt burdening of education, that this idea that you have to basically, when you sign up to go to college, you're basically making a FanDuel bet that there's going to be a job there that's going to pay you enough for the $100,000 you got to go to, in debt to go to college. That has to stop, because my generation, I'm making, in my 30s, I probably made more than my parents made in my 30s, but I don't own a house because the housing market's terrible. So we have to talk about, how do we get affordable housing stock? Like, how do we make decisions that infuse affordable housing stock to where people, and even market housing stock, to where it drives down the cost of living? How do we, set a minimum wage that reflects the reality of the cost of living and reflects the ability for it to be a livable wage, not just a minimum wage? I mean, these are all things that if we can rally behind and get an agenda that I think is an economic affordability agenda out the door, we will see an immediate benefit in connecting with people, because some people might say, look, I don't see eye to eye on that issue, but what I do know is they fought for me on healthcare, and I'm alive and I'm here because of it. And those are the kinds of things that if we don't reclaim that agenda, that's the way we get out of this identity crisis, I think. And obviously a lot more diverse representation in Congress from all different perspectives, but certainly age.
Absolutely.
All right, Justin, I'll vote for you, man.
You're moving to Pennsylvania and registering in Pennsylvania's 10th district. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I got one.
Yeah. So, and this question came up because we now know Zoran won New York with a very socialist platform. And apparently it worked in New York. We know that probably won't work in Alabama, or Kansas for that fact, or Missouri. So this is why I'm asking, how do we connect with Democrats from all over? Or I don't even know if we have to connect with Democrats. It's the ones who have left us, and the ones who don't quite know exactly what to make of this one bird, two wing thing. So those are the people I feel like, you guys should be 100% focused on. Because I'm gonna tell you now, if someone is calling themselves a Democrat right now, they're not going nowhere. You have their vote. We already know who the problem is. The people you have to get is those who have decided that the Democrats have gone way too left, or those who think it's just two wings of the same bird. That is who your focus should be. I need y'all to hone your message in for those people the best you can if you want to win this race. I 100% agree with that. Anyone else has anything else to add to this?
Yeah, because what you have to remember is 80 million people stayed home in the 2024 election, the most consequential election in our history, and more people sat home than voted for either candidate. And I think that's where we need to reach out and get those people engaged, because we are a representative democracy that does not work unless we have the participation of the people. So, yeah, I didn't want to step on you, Colin. So go ahead. Sorry, brother.
No, I appreciate that. It's something I think about a lot because in Kansas, Democrats are the third largest political group after Republicans and independents. I'm not winning this election if I don't move a lot of independents and even a few Republicans, because that's just the nature of the first district in Kansas. And I can't go out there and talk about, I am a hardcore super liberal, because nobody wants to hear it. Even Democrats in Kansas don't want to hear that. What we do is we talk about our values, talk about the things that matter to us, and talk specifically about what we're going to do differently so people can see the difference. Because a lot of people in Kansas, especially, they're really upset at Democrats because they've been told for so many years that Democrats are devils. And they've internalized that just because that's what my dad believed, that's what my dad's dad believed, and they've never stopped to ask if it's true or not. When I think about my race, obviously I want to go to Congress, but the real purpose of this race is a strategic change over time to remind people they can vote for a person instead of a party, to show what those values are. So we go out and we talk about what it is we believe in, what it is we see that's a problem, the solutions we want to see, talk about tariffs and the impact on agricultural production, talk about universities, talk about the science being shut down, so that people don't see Republican, Democrat, they see the guy who's voted for everything that took away my export markets and the guy who says that's wrong. And if we can focus on what those independent effects are, what's actually moving people, and get away from just party identity, then it becomes possible to win races, even in a place like Kansas.
Absolutely.
Can I add one more?
The same thing here in Missouri. Whenever I talk to a constituent, I do these. I call it a listening tour, where I just go to like little cafes, shops, gas stations, and just talk to people. And when they ask me what party I am, I tell them, no, let's not talk about party. Let's talk about policy. Let's just have a conversation about policy, and then let's see where we level out there. And then after that, we can talk about party, but just talking about the policies. And for me in Missouri, it's all kitchen table issues, kind of like everybody else was talking about. That's what we need to focus on. And then if we get to the point where we do get in office, then we can start kind of branching out and take care of the other stuff. But we got to get there first.
Okay. Justin, you wanted to add something real quick, and then we'll go to you, Candice.
Dr. Candice raised her hand. I want her to go first because I already spoke.
I mean, I've been talking too. Sorry. Okay. But sure, if you're gonna let me talk, I'll talk. So, first of all, statistically speaking, millennials and Gen Z lean left, but we have the lowest voter registration. So inspiring voter turnout do not discount how many voters we need to turn out in the election. Yes, we are going to have to pull some independent and some middle of the road Republicans over to the Democratic side, but there's also voters that have to be reactivated, which is what Zoran did in New York. Mm-hmm. And I hate when people tell me that won't work in Alabama, because what we need is candidates who are giving people something to vote for. That's what Zoran did, is he gave people someone to vote for. There are so many Democrats across this great nation right now that are platforming on nothing but that guy sucks. That guy likes Trump, so vote for me instead. They're not offering anything other than just the hope that for the next year, they're not going to switch the messaging and start showing up for town halls and kissing voter butts, because that's exactly what they're going to do. So we have to give voters something to vote for. And I firmly believe that is how we're going to get those voters to turn out. Jasmine Crockett
Donald Trump
would not be running a statewide race in the state of Texas if the polls weren't telling her that she could win.
Exactly.
So your location does not dictate whether or not that method is going to work, because Jasmine Crockett is one of the most authentic. I am not going to make myself palatable for you people I've ever seen. And if she's willing to do it in Texas, I sure as heck can take on a fifth of Alabama.
What you do?
Completely
Yep,
agree.
I
And
give
Donald
you a
Trump
round
ran
of
on,
applause.
I will be your retribution. We can't do that. We're not going to be somebody's retribution. We can only run on the values that we stand for, what we're going to do positively for people. Absolutely.
You have a very calming voice, Colin. I don't know if you know that, but you have a very calming voice.
So I'm actually, my point was a little bit to Collins. I don't think we run a retribution campaign, but I do think a grievance, in a sense, is okay to pivot from grievance to value. And I think the way I've done this, that I think is connected with a lot of independents and even a lot of Republicans, is I say the system's broken. It's broken by design. It's not an accident that the system's not working for you. It's not working for you because through Citizens United, we've given corporations so much power. My campaign refuses to take corporate PAC money. I'm not going to take $1. They could come to me with $1 million check. I'm not going to take it. Why am I not going to take it? Because when I get to Congress, I want to represent you. I don't want to represent them. And so if we can have that message and then pivot to what we value, it is a sense of grievance. I think most people that are independents and even Republicans and even Democrats feel like both parties have failed. It is a crazy thing in America that when I go to the toothpaste aisle, I have about 100 options. But when I go to vote for president, I have 2. I mean, that is a pretty wild reality that we live in. And I think it leads a lot of people to feel like the candidate that best represents them isn't always there. And so we have the opportunity, I think, to talk about the ways in which this system props up those who sell themselves out to corporations. And they often are the ones who get to carry the mantle. And so what does it look like to put your support as an independent behind somebody who's refusing to take that corporate PAC money? And we might not align on every single thing I value. I might emphasize something that you're like, I'm on the complete other side of that. But if your goal is to be fully aligned with somebody, good luck in this political landscape to find somebody that fully lines up with everything. If you 100% line up with me, that's crazy. We're different people. But hopefully we can at least line up on, we got to get money out of politics, and we're not going to do it by putting people there who sell their souls to the corporate donors before they even get there. And so this is a way, I think, of a grievance message that then gets attached to a value, as opposed to just what we saw with Donald Trump, which was basically just grievance, and, using that to his advantage. So just an idea and something that I've found beneficial in reaching independence.
Right. Peter, you wanted to say something, and before you go, Peter, I just wanted to say that we have conversations after you all's town halls often, and one of the things I brought up is that pretty much everyone we've platformed say they are grassroots candidates, not accepting any PAC money, not accepting any corporate money. It's just about every single person. What I said was, though, that most of you, I can't speak for everybody, I don't know everybody. Most of you do not have the name or the fame for a PAC or corporations to come and ask you to take their money. We're going to be clear about that. So it's real easy to say that now. It really is. So my question to you all is, what is going to prevent you from taking that money once you're elected in the Congress, and now you're in the circle where the sharks are swimming?
I want Peter to go,
but
I just want to say, because I brought that up, so I just want to say this. I ran for county commissioner in 2023 in a county that hadn't had a Democratic majority since the Civil War. We're guaranteed a seat, basically, because it's three county commissioners. It's been 2 Republicans, 1 Democrat since the Civil War here in Dauphin County. I raised $10,000 for my campaign, refused to take special interest money. The others raised each over $250,000. On election night, we were ahead by 42 votes. We won by 184. If you get out and you knock doors and you meet with people and you work hard, I mean, you got to work your ass off. But if you work hard, you can actually connect. And I mean, this is a county of 300,000 people. It's not small. It's not, I didn't benefit just because it was small. So I do want to say, I agree with you. And people have come to me to give me money, and I've sent it back. But at the same time, like, there are ways that transcend the money. And when you get in those conversations about integrity and you're able to say that can often connect more than a paycheck can make your job easier, because the checks do make your job easier. It makes campaigning a lot easier when you're not penny pinching. But the ability to walk into a room and talk about integrity and then show the receipts, that goes a much longer way these days. So I just wanted to say that from my experience, that I've actually experienced a race where I was outspent, 25-1, and we still were able to be successful.
Excellent. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I just want to kind of piggyback on that. And I mean, to directly answer your question, it's a question about trust. That's what it is. It's a question about trust. So I go and I talk to somebody and I say, I won't accept corporate PAC money because that's my position. And my opponent does, right? So I'm running against Blake Moore, who's in Republican leadership. And I think he's raised a little over $500,000 just in corporate PAC funding for this year, according to the October filing. And he has like $2 million that he sits on. That is 2 million reasons that he has not to listen to the voters in his district because he doesn't think that he needs to. And at the end of the day, this really is a conversation about trust. I have to earn your trust as a voter. That's my job, right? I've got to go. I have to be authentic. I have to be the person that you will trust to go fight for you, to advocate for you in Congress. That's my responsibility. Constitution, district. Like anything else is way down on the list where my priorities are. And so my 2 years in Congress, I'm elected, like, great, this is what's happened. We're all in Congress. As voters, you have 2 years to hold me accountable for my actions. Am I showing up where you need me to show up? That's both in DC and back in my district. If I'm not actively in session, what am I doing? Am I there at the small meetings? Am I meeting with local small business owners? Am I at community events? Am I having the conversations with people that say, I need some help? Like, I don't have the power or the influence to allow government to work for me the way that I need it to. So will you be that person for me? And did I show up? That's the trust. And if at the end of 2 years, my first term, you go and you look at my open access public campaign finance and you say, dude, he took money from corporations, which he said he wouldn't do, vote me out of office. If at the end of 2 years, I said that I would advocate for you, I would be the person that would put policies forward that would make your life better, and I haven't done that, vote me out of office. That's your obligation as a voter. Hold me accountable. And so on this particular issue, I think that we have to be transparent. We have to do what we say we're going to do. I was raised by a father where a handshake was enough, right? Like, you don't need to have a contract. You said you were going to do it. Well, then you're going to do it. That's the end of the conversation. And we have to carry forward that same kind of integrity in the things that we say we're going to do into our role in Congress. And if at the end of 2 years we haven't done that, vote me out. And I will say systemically, and then I'll stop talking because I know a lot of other people have comments on this, we probably need to have a conversation, systemic reform about term limits for members of Congress, on top of the other reforms that we have discussed. There is something that happens when people get exposed to power that inevitably creates some conflict in who they are and what they want to accomplish. I genuinely believe most people who have been elected to Congress did so because they wanted to do good from their perspective. The system is not currently designed to allow an individual to stay in power indefinitely and still do good for the people as their first interest. It's really, really hard to do that. So we should talk about systemic reform, about how to keep our congressional leaders accountable to the people, focused on their work, and then open up doors so somebody else can do work going forward. Somebody who's 80 years old in Congress after 20 terms, like, that's a problem. We should have that conversation.
Agreed. Colin?
Yeah, we haven't disagreed much about anything on this panel so far, so let me be the one who does it and say that I would take money from a corporate PAC. I'm a business person, I'm a business professor. I see that business in a lot of cases is just people doing what they do with their lives, and it's a megaphone for the people who make up that business. That doesn't mean that corporate PAC money is ethical. It depends on the person, on what the PAC is, what it wants, what it's spending that money to do. I want to judge a politician by whose money they take, not a category, and say you never take that category's money. I can say for myself, I haven't because nobody's offered it to me. You, Melanie, you're exactly right about that. We don't have the name that earns that kind of money here. But also, I live under the benefit, the blessing of a special safety cap, which is that my district is totally unwinnable for a Democrat outside of a wave election like we're looking at 26. I'm effectively term limited. I could not possibly win an election after this 2 years. And so no one needs to worry too much about me being, owned by PACs, because if I win the election, nobody's going to spend money on a guy who's going to lose the next time. But I don't disrespect a Democrat who takes PAC money and then uses it to do the right thing, especially if what they're doing in the long run is taking money out of politics. It's here, and it's here today. And I think it's irresponsible in some cases to say, I will not take money that would let me do what I need to do, including start to take money out of politics. We can be pure to the point where it doesn't actually improve our ethics and does decrease our ability to do the things that should be done.
I appreciate that honesty, Colin. Anyone want to rebut that or
I would like
agree?
to add to that in my experience. So what I'm going to piggyback off is you absolutely have to do your research, because political action committees are not always bad. And the one that I'm endorsed by, Track APAC or APAC Tracker, they are a political action committee. And they are grassroots. And I know the folks who are involved in that adjacently. So, and you will find that I have taken PAC money that does not take corporate money. So they are purely grassroots. And so this PAC, and I did my research, they don't take corporate money, and they have there's PACs that have unlimited that they can take, and there's PACs that limited. This PAC they gave me money and they helped me start this campaign, and they are purely grassroots and they're limited. Okay, so do your research. So with that being said, I'm not compromised in any way. You see what I mean? Because I know the folks, because here's the other thing. PACs, they have to disclose all their donors. The ones that you get problems with is this 501c4s that do not. And that's what happened with Citizens United. Okay, so we have to understand that some PACs fight against the system. Okay, specifically the ones that I'm endorsed by, they were not the ones who gave me any money. Let me be very clear. So with that being said, knows whose money you're taking and be open to refusing it. Absolutely. I will take no corporate money and no corporate PACs. Okay. And there are PACs, again, that are on our side who are fighting against this regime. And this is a money game. I hate to break it to everybody. I apologize for saying that and send me to Congress to change it. But I'm going to tell you right now, in my state, a ruby red state, it's been a long time that it turned. It was 86 years we were Democrat, and then we had gerrymandering. They were gerrymandered to death, and they had to completely do a 180, and everybody turned Republican. And so I have family members that reflected that. They were Democrats. Gerrymandering happened, lobbyists, laws were passed, all the things. Huh?
That's not what happened, Britt.
What? Hold on. I'm talking about West Virginia.
I know what you're talking about. 80 years ago, that's not what happened. What happened is the Dems became the Republicans. They didn't, it wasn't about gerrymandering. It was the flip of the party.
I mean, we were Democrats for 86 years. That's what I mean.
Right. But not these Democrats.
Yeah. Different kind of Democrat.
Okay, but are we on the timeline, though? Like, we're on the right timeline. They flipped. They turned Republican. They've been Republican since.
And what I'm telling you is, but the ideology did not change.
Dixiecrats. They were the old Dixiecrats.
We went from the Dixiecrats to the Republicans.
Yeah.
Same people.
Okay. I appreciate that. But I'm just going to finish my statement if you don't care.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's what I mean. So we were, okay, so that's the timeline. Everybody flipped. My family flipped as well. And so they don't remember a time that they were Democrats, but I do. Like, it was during G.W. Bush, like when he was being elected. Okay? And so with that being said, the compromise money has been there. And we just have to say, we're not going to take it. We have to understand, do the research, and figure it out. Now, I really did lose my train of thought there for a moment. Because that's okay, because I really was going somewhere with that. And I'm like, hold on a minute. We were gerrymandered. I mean, like, I don't understand. Like, I followed the history, so I'm just going to pause.
You may have been gerrymandered, too. It still was to make it okay. So let me just bring in what I was saying. So there was prior to 1960, the South was Democrats. The whole South was Democrats because they were the conservative group. The Democrats prior to 1960 was the conservative party. And so the whole South was Democratic. When the Democrats decided to embrace civil rights, embrace the change that this country needed, giving Black people more rights, a good chunk of them said, no, we're not for that. And there was enough Republicans at the time who was supposed to be the Progressive Party. They also was like, yeah, we're not for that either. We was good with the separate but equal. And so that's how the party switch happened. So the whole South became Republican because the Republican kept the ideologies of white supremacy. So this is what we fight for today hard. Why in the Black community we have such a big fight about the Democratic Party because we constantly get told that the Democratic Party was the party of the Triple K. Mm-hmm. So why are we backing them? And we're backing them because the Democratic Party of today shows the most diversity, shows the most progression for Black people, shows the most progression for America. That's the Democratic Party of today. But the Democratic Party of 1930, they was the ones who was putting us in trees. Unfortunately. I mean, this is the history. So there was a switch that happened that folks said, oh no, we trying to keep this white supremacy thing up, and they became Republicans. And that is why you now have the whole South is now Republicans. So it's a crazy history we have to deal with. And that's when anyone says to me that, oh, we was Democrats at one time prior to 1960, I know they don't realize like the ideology is still the same, even though you're Republican now. It's still the same ideology.
It's 60s when the Civil Rights Act happened.
Yeah. So, anyone else have anything else to say? I actually, Britt, I agree with you because if our vote counts decided to become a PAC, we will give out money to candidates, but we will be a good PAC. We wouldn't be a bad PAC.
I think
And I wanted to clarify, like I said, I was talking about things and the ideology. I understand where you're coming from. I was just talking about step by step and the history, West Virginia, my folks and things. So that's where I was coming from with it. I apologize if it came that I didn't understand. Like it was a little mishap. And that is what I wanted to get across is not all PACs are bad. We have to fight the system in the system, unfortunately, and send us to Congress so we can have campaign finance reform. And we don't have to constantly be asking for money. I'm unashamedly can ask for money, and it makes people uncomfortable. And I have to get over that as a candidate. Sorry about it. I've raised over $100,000 in less than 6 months, purely grassroots. We have almost 4,000 individual donors. Yeah, so it is fully grassroots. The average donation is $19 per donation. And so I stand on that. And so that's a good thing. But we're in December, fundraising slows down, but we still have to fundraise. And I just want to hibernate. We're mammals. You know, I'm just like we just need to, go to sleep and it's getting darker. And so that's where I want to advocate for is that we should not be constantly having to fundraise. It's unsustainable. It's not good for our mental health. And quite frankly, politics is messed up because of money. And that's where I'll end. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you.
Here's the problem with taking corporate PAC money, in my estimation. And I do think it's important that we separate ideological PACs and corporate PACs, which is like the important thing here. Like I would take PAC money from a union. I'm pro-worker. Like I'm not opposed to taking money from a union PAC or from an ideological PAC that I have a clear ideology with, that I'm going to already be supporting what they're doing anyway. What I think is important when we talk about fundraising, though, is the moment any of us are successful, the Democratic Party, the DCCC is going to expect us to raise a lot of money. We all know that, right? Like, I mean, this is a game, and this is the whole point. The moment you get in on the game and you say, okay, I guess I got to play the game to do the game, is the moment you're on a slippery slope to the reality of capitulation. And I'm just one who I understand the power of money. It takes money for me to print the sign that's behind me. It takes money for me to do things. That's fine. And we're coming up on $100,000, over 3,000 donors. $22 is, I think, our average. Like, you can create a grassroots movement that connects with people and that still gets you the money you need. But, you know, my challenger, my Democratic challenger in this has raised over $1 million. Like, that's the challenge, though, is that the D trip is going to see anybody who's a good fundraiser as a better candidate. Not because they're a better candidate, not because they're a better messenger, not because they have better policies, but because ultimately they're going to be able to do the call time that transfers into dollars that ultimately is what they worship right now. And so part of my reason to be uncompromised on this and not kind of and I'm not opposed to somebody who says, look, this is the apparatus that we're in. We need to get in through the apparatus, and then we need to change the apparatus. I would agree on that if it could be quickly changed, but you're not going to change Citizens United. It was a ruling by the Supreme Court. It's going to take a constitutional amendment to change that. And that's going to be a very, very, very long road. And so you can certainly put a lot of boundaries around the money. You can have a lot more ethics reporting. You can have a lot more shaming of people who give. But let's be honest, Elon Musk is doing it out in the open. He's having parties and giving away money. Like, it's not even like it's being live streamed in front of us. And so I don't think you're going to shame corporations into not buying politicians, and you're not going to shame parties into not prioritizing money over everything else. Your committee appointments are going to be connected to how much you can fundraise. Like, these are all things that people don't talk about, that are the pressures. And so the moment you kind of start down that road, it's hard to come back from it, because at least that's my opinion. I mean, again, I'm a little bit maybe, principled in this because I've also been successful at it once, in the sense of like not selling out for a seat. But I'm fully aware that I might be unsuccessful because of this. And I think that's actually the better posture to take than potentially going down the corporate PAC trail. That's just me.
Absolutely. You wanted to say something, Peter? No? Okay. Yes, Miss Candice. And then I'm going to go to the next topic.
Call time is a privilege. Having time to do call time is a privilege. I work a full-time job, can't afford childcare, so my toddler is with me while I'm working my full-time job, and my husband leaves at 4 a.m. to work 12 hours Monday through Friday. I do not have time to spend hours on the phone calling donors. My opposition does. He has childcare. He does not have that 9-to-5 job with a boss breathing down his neck. And yes, raising money is a reality of a campaign. I'm willing to fight that uphill battle. I'm not discounting that at all. But if we want working class candidates, if we want that real representation that we all agreed, even this isn't full representation of everybody, we have got to start calling that out. Even if you are a candidate, I love that you guys have almost raised $100,000, but we have to call that out, and you need to recognize that that is a privilege that other normal just grassroots candidates may not have. And it's very frustrating to me because I have a friend who's running in the next congressional district. She lives down the street from me. We text on a regular basis, but she doesn't have a full-time job and she doesn't have children. So she has rang over 10,000 phones since we started this. Wow. That is a privilege that not every candidate has. And if we want regular people running for office, it is something that we have to denormalize.
All right, so that's a call. That's a call to the chat. Go to Miss Candice's site, sign up to volunteer, and get on them phones. She can't do it. Get on the phone.
Thank you.
I do just
Thank
wanna...
you. But also continue calling it out because it's bull.
Yes.
And even in the comments, someone a second ago said that you should not be able to raise money out of your district. 100%. If the money that you are using to get elected is not coming from the people that you will serve once elected, something is wrong. And we talk a lot about PAC money, but I don't even care. If you're running in North Alabama and your main donors are in California, you're not going to take care of Alabamians. You're going to take care of Californians, period.
Yes, Peter.
I just want to say, so I also work full time, and my wife works full time, and we have 3 teenage daughters. Like, our life is busy. Like, that's just the reality of what this looks like. And I do think one set of reforms that absolutely could be put in place by a Democratic Congress, if we are able to take both the House and the Senate, is to have publicly funded elections, at least at the federal level. That is a legitimate thing that we could go ahead and push through. And I think that is of great general benefit to the country as a whole. I want bartenders running for Congress, like I genuinely do. I want small business owners who have struggled to make ends meet for the last 20 years to run for Congress. I want teachers. I want firefighters. I want police officers. I want professors, right? Like, I want people who are not independently wealthy to have the opportunity to stand up and say, I will represent you, that I will be here to help you, because that's what a government run by the people for the people looks like. And Candice, I get it. Like, call time, I work full time. I've got 2 hours a night really that I can devote to campaigning activities. And then all day on Saturday, my family just doesn't see me anymore. Like, it's kind of a running joke at this point. And
you
so
have to do TikTok lives and in-person meetings,
right?
and write op-eds and come up with social media strategy and all of these things all in 2 hours. Plus, you're supposed to call 10,000 people. It's ridiculous. Sorry, Peter, but
no, like I get it. So I think if we want to talk about a real change that could make a difference in the life of real Americans and get a government that really represents us, let's get publicly funded elections. And that's something we could do. There's not a consent like that. That's not a constitutional problem. We could do that.
Yes, I agree. And I'd like to add that I've actually already had to fire people because of their mindset about money. So I understand y'all are responding, but I'm going to respond too, is that I have been, since I started, this idea that I have to constantly raise money, and that's why I'm saying it. I'm being transparent. That's what I run my campaign on. I have to constantly raise money. I have to focus on that. I can't be an activist anymore because I'm a candidate. Well, those 2 people are gone. So I want to be clear about that I've already stood on business and I'm standing on business. And because she said it was a privilege. I appreciate you saying that. It's not luck, it's hard work, and perhaps it is privilege. And as a person of privilege that I've operated in my whole life, I use that and I take my campaign funds and I actually donate. The first $10,000 I made, I donated 1,000 to it, to things that were legally, that from my treasurer I could donate to. I also feed people. I go around every district, and I've been to 4 counties out of my 28, and I use my campaign funds for Meet the Candidate events, and I feed folks, specifically the unhoused population. So that's what makes me different, and that's how I'm spending my money. So love y'all, mean it. I just needed to let everybody know that, because even though I'm talking about that, I'm going to openly talk about what I'm spending it on, how I'm different, and why we need to change it. And I've seen that already in my campaign, again, with those 2 people being fired. So that's my response, and I appreciate y'all listening.
Excellent, Brent. Excellent. So I'm going to do another quick hand raise. Raise your hand if you think the JE files has any importance in our democracy right now. Okay. That wasn't what I expected. So now I'm gonna have to go into this conversation. But it's a tricky one because some of these words TikTok don't like too much. But and I ask this because I personally don't know. I mean, I know, the man in power may be in these things somehow, some way, but I don't think that the amount of attention we're giving them as America is necessary for where we need to go. So go ahead, Colin. We're going to try to make this really quick, but go ahead, Colin.
I'm a professor. One of the things I teach is a class on conspiracy theories. It's something I've been writing about for a long time.
I got you,
where I talk about politics. I hate conspiracy theories. I hate them. And so it really strikes me when this comes up, my first instinct is reject all the aspects of this that even look remotely like a conspiracy theory. The most likely explanation is there's not a single document in that's going to be released that's going to be a bombshell, that's going to blow everything up, that's going to be deeply incriminating. It just would have come out by now if that was in there. But the reason I kind of wave my hand in a shaky way is that it's still relevant to American politics because the Trump administration made these files such a big deal and then has been so transparently corrupt and dishonest about actually releasing them. Mm-hmm. If they had simply dumped the files out in an ethical, transparent way, it'd be done by now. But they've been so slow about this and so cagey about this, probably because the president is so obviously filthy that they can't be sure there's nothing damaging in there. And they're so incompetent in how they actually handle this that it shows the character and the nature of the administration. So I think the real story here is the way they've handled the files as opposed to the files themselves. If there is something explosive in the files, well, we'll see it because there's going to come out eventually one way or the other. But even before that comes out, we point to the way they've handled it and we say, this is corruption, this is incompetence, this is why we need change in Congress.
Are you going to see it with all the redactions, though? I mean, we just had that where they showed that 119 pages completely redacted. So, you know.
Who's
so why do you? Why, so hold on. So Chuck, why do you think they're important?
I think they're important because I think they point to giving those women, those victims, a voice, and I think they need this to heal. And I think we need to hold those people that had anything to do with that. And I don't care, Republican, Independent, whatever you are, Democrat, if you had anything to do with it, I think you need to be held accountable. And I think we need full transparency. I don't see why the Democrats on those committees are not, don't have access to the full files unredacted. They have clearances. They should be able to see everything. And then that way they can filter through and then get the information to the people. But I think we need to do that for the victims to give them a chance to heal.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Candice.
I agree with everything Chuck just said. But to Colin's point, who's that comedian that has the bit where he's just like, talking about people who believe in conspiracy theories, and he's like, you don't believe in any conspiracy theories? Like, you just think our government's batting 1,000? That's a strong stance to take. And that was my first response to just like, really? For me, it is extremely relevant. And as a mom, as a human being, as a woman, all of these things, it is extremely relevant. And I agree with what you're saying, Colin. I don't want to go down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole, but there's a lot of people in this administration causing roadblocks that this has been attached to their career for the last 20 years. They have been circulating around this. So I don't think it's crazy to think there's some sort of connection with how that's flowed. I have made a very strong statement about this, where basically, for me, any person who was in a position of power to investigate this over the last 20 years and did not use every ounce of their power to get it exposed should be held responsible and should not be holding an office where they get to speak on behalf of the American people ever again. Full stop. I don't care what party you are. If you did not do something to protect these children, you do not get to advocate for the people anymore.
Absolutely.
Full stop.
Absolutely.
Can I just say, to the nature of your question, I do think, like, are the Epstein files a priority? Like, I think it's fair to say that, like, they need to be on the priority list, but maybe not the highest priority, if that's what you were saying. Like, because I do think it is a distraction from the reality of, I would actually say the impact of tariffs have been far more impactful on like what we have power to stop as Congress,
anybody's
for
barely
example.
talking about it.
Yes. And that's where I think Trump is masterful in his, he's a reality superstar. He knows how to move attention to something else that distracts from the real consequence of what's happening over here. But I think the bigger thing, and the reason I raised my hand and do think this is important, is because right now we're seeing an all-time low in public trust of elected officials. And because we're at an all-time low of public trust, we have to increase transparency. And obviously every reason given the victims and the reality to ensure that stuff like this never happens again and accountability for those who buried it. I'm 100% in agreement with all of that. But I'll say another value and benefit is that when we increase accountability, the idea is that we increase public trust because we show that we can actually do the right thing, even when the consequences might be a former Democratic president, right? Like that's I think the reason it's really important right now is because there's a reckoning as we move forward of what it looks like to be accountable in this age and restore public trust, and that's why it would be on my priority list. But certainly, we don't want to miss the other really important things that actually like have immediate effects on people's lives and economics. And this is the great thing we can have multiple priorities. So yeah,
Absolutely. Anyone else? No. Okay. So I have. Go ahead, Zeb.
Yeah, so I think they're important, but I just want to essentially remember when the email dropped about Bubba after the government shutdown ended. I'm primarying they've been in Congress for 30 years, and my biggest gripe is that they don't understand good strategy. And so with these files being able to capture the attention so easily, it upset me that they waited till after the shutdown to drop that initial file dump instead of the day after the shutdown happened, because what that would have done is put pressure on the Republicans who were shutting down the government and then shown everyone that this is what's happening underneath everything while they're trying to deny you health care. And so while I don't think it's important politically for where we go, I think Democrats have completely squandered this opportunity to use this as a proper stick in their negotiations to push the opposition to actually do something and take some accountability. And that's what I would say about
That's
Absolutely.
really bipartisan.
that.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna let our vote council know, we're gonna go over a little bit today. This conversation is too good for me to just end at 5:00. But we're gonna switch this up just a little bit. I'm gonna bring up one of my colleagues, Miss Ayana, which some of you all interviewed with when you did your town hall. Miss Ayana is gonna come up and pose a question. But while she comes up, I want you all to think about this question very carefully and have your answers ready. What do you think about reparations to African Americans? This is a very pale panel, so I'm very curious of what your opinions are. So think about that while I bring Miss Ayana up, and we'll get those answers in just a minute. All right, so I'm going to go down, and Ayana's going to come up. All right, so.
Oh, wow. Hey, I'm in the box. Yay, wee.
Hey, hello,
Hello, everyone. Hey, I interviewed some of you. Hello. Okay, here's my thing. I love that all of you have very good character. We've seemed to have lost sight of the fact that character matters when it comes to governance and legislative policy making. I love it. But when I go to your website, some of you and some of the other candidates we've looked at, we've interviewed, if I don't see a policy section that reads like a menu at the Cheesecake Factory, that pisses me off. That pisses me off. It's fine that we all agree on this and we all agree on this, and this needs to change and this needs to change. What are your ideas? Specifically, what is your idea, Dr. Candice? What's the most important pressing issue that you, when you get into office, you're going to say, day one, this is the policy that I'm introducing on the floor of the House. And for Zeb, and for Britt, and Justin, and Peter, and Colin, and Mr. Summers, what is your very first, this is the bill I am introducing because this is the most pressing thing. There are all these other things too, but this thing right here is what I've been thinking about. We need to change this right away. If I go to your website and I don't see that, I'm clicking off. I'm clicking off. And it's not because I don't like you. It's because I need to know what we're going to do to move this country forward, because we seem to keep going in a circle. I put this on my my TikTok about how American politics goes in a circle. It doesn't move in a straight line. I don't want to go in the circle anymore, right? I want to move forward. What is each one of you going to do to move us forward? And I'll go
I'll
on
go
mute.
first. I'll go first if you'd like me to.
Yeah.
It seems like everybody's kind of like, who's going? So I'll talk about one that I would sign on to and one that I'm sure something like it already exists, but I've talked a lot about banning congressional stock trading. That bill's already exists. I would sign on to that immediately, day one. I would begin crafting some type of national minimum wage. There's things that already exist that are out there, but something to that extent, signing on to raising the minimum wage. We haven't raised it for so long in this country, and it certainly doesn't reflect the reality of where we're at. I think there's good arguments on the side of, where does a high schooler fit into this, but there's plenty of ways you can work that into, someone who's in a position where they have a summer job, or they have, a 5 hours a week type job, and they're not needing it for, life. But that shouldn't allow other entities to, gouge people who are working for them. And so I don't want corporations. And another thing, I think a loophole we can get in that is that, I'll just say this. My wife worked at Walmart for a while when we were first married, and she wanted to work more hours, but they kept her under 30 hours, but they were always hiring. And they were always hiring because they didn't want anyone taking benefits. At that time, we lived in Wisconsin, and many of her colleagues were on Badger Care. So basically, when we talk about, socialism, it was socialism for Walmart because they knew that they could work the policies to their favor and have the government subsidize the healthcare that they should have been offering to their employees. So I think when we talk about minimum wage, I would also support something that says, look, if you have profited off this system and you're, Walmart, which is a giant, and you're not willing to take care of your employees, but you're going to constantly hire and keep your employees basically having to work 2 jobs and still probably not be eligible for any healthcare at their, employment. These are things that I think are loopholes that I would want to protect the American people and the working class.
So I would sign whatever he just mentioned, and also the term limit things. So I can't speak for everybody here. Qualifying in Alabama starts in January, and my team has a full rollout. My website's completely changing, and I will have outlined policy plans for all of those things.
Same for us. Ours comes out in January. Sorry.
Yeah.
I know. You called me out. It's not up there yet.
No, and it's
all good. We're all friends here. All friends.
And I've also had people tell me the opposite. I have 5 policy points on my website right now, and I've had multiple people tell me that I need to cut it down to 3. So that's a hard balance. For me, my number one priority is rebuilding the Department of Education without all the pork and crap that was built into there previously, and making sure that it's actually serving our children. Because as I said, in my town hall the other night, I think career and technical training, career readiness for kids who don't want to go to college, military, whatever they want to do, as well as early childhood education, that's how we shape the future of our country. And a person's geography, the family they're born to, or their economic status should not dictate whether or not they are prepared to go into the world that way. So for me, it's education, hands down.
If I could go ahead, because I know she said she's going to extend it, but I have my older son here who I need to tend to, and 2 hours. So I'm going to go ahead, and I just want to say that. So I'm going to jump in and say, I would love to propose a policy to support healthcare, and specifically mental health care. And on my town hall that I was on here about, I talked about, and I created a bill that specifically funds independent contracted work and group therapy programs, specifically in dialectical behavioral therapy. And this will combat the crisis in mental health care that not only we face in West Virginia, but nationwide. And that's dedicated to 2 trans kids who felt like that they would like not to be here anymore. And we need to create a world, a nation, and a state that allows people to know that their life is worth living. And dialectical behavioral therapy is that therapy to help high-risk individuals learn coping skills that we were not told and taught. And this also goes into the previous question that I didn't elaborate on with the EF files, because if we have folks who are very preoccupied with that type of behavior, calling the shots, and they're trying to cover it up, no wonder they're going after folks and individuals who they do not, they think are different, such as trans kids and trans individuals. So those folks need to be out of there. And we need to have folks who are well in their mind, because obviously folks who are making decisions to unalive folks in seas and go after, declare invasions on other countries, and they're not emotionally regulated. And so I want to formulate policy to help folks learn coping skills. And this is a generational thing. I'm a CSA survivor. That's why I bring it around. This is a generational thing, specifically in West Virginia as well. I'm a third generation CSA survivor. And I'm basically the one who's basically talked about it and open about it and have started healing about it from it. So with that being said, when we have folks who are cycle breakers, who are survivors, who are coming out and saying, you know, I'm a survivor. Well, we've been through therapy. So we need to destigmatize therapy. And when we do that at a policy, at a federal level, implement policies that specifically center mental health care, center coping skills, DBT is that therapy. And it is not only approved by the American Psychological Association, but also the American Psychiatric Association. I have completed 2 rounds of that. So that would fund independent contractors and group therapies, and also not just independent contractors, but you understand, expand the funding for this therapy to tackle this crisis of folks deleting themselves from the earth because they don't feel like their life is worth living. They don't feel supported. And honestly, what I've learned through that therapy is that desire is actually a coping skill that is maladaptive and that has to be changed. So if we understand that, this longing to not be here anymore is actually a coping skill that we've maladaptively learned, and we can just reframe it and learn distress tolerance, how to get through hard things, how to navigate interpersonal effectiveness in our relationships, how to practice mindfulness of our emotions, and to be educated about our emotional regulation, because emotions change, emotions are fleeting. I don't know if y'all know that, but I didn't know that till a couple years ago, is that my emotion, my feeling will actually change in 2 or 3 minutes, depending on the breath, the rate of my breath, my circumstances, the people around me, and if I need a snack or not. And so I know that sounds very simple, but y'all, it ain't. And that's what this therapy teaches, designed by and coined by Dr. Marsha Linehan. So with that being said, that's the policy I would like to see. That's day one, to tackle this mental health care crisis and also start the healthcare repair process. I also wanted to say, because like I said, I'm about to have to get off here, but as far as reparations, I know this is, but I wanted to answer her question. The reparations for the African American community, we have to center BIPOC voices and restore that relationship, and also be open to having these conversations. And we have to have the community agreements about that. And so community agreements allows for more cultural context to come in, not just the American individualism, the rugged individualism mindset. It allows for more of a collective care, a centering of the collective and the collective grief that racism and white supremacy has caused a lot of folks, and specifically the African American community, like Miss, what's her name, Michelle? I forget. Yeah, okay. Who was just up here. So that's what I wanted to answer that as well.
Her name is Melanie.
Melanie. Okay. So what Melanie was asking, I didn't want to not answer that question because I felt very passionate about that. And we need to include embodiment practices, because when we talk about these things, we have a physical reaction in our body. And that's, again, comes back to that policy I'm talking about of DBT, and including mindfulness, embodiment practices. I'm a yoga teacher, if that helps y'all, where my context is coming from. I'm a trained yoga teacher, an advanced yoga teacher. So I wanted to answer all of that and tell y'all about that and say thanks for having me, because I'm going to have to jump off here in a minute.
Thank you, Britt. We really appreciate you being here, and thank you for answering that question. I know when Melanie comes back up, she'll dive right into that. But we got 4. So can I click you off now, or are you good? Britt, are you good?
I am. I had to click. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave. Thank y'all so much. And I really appreciated this. I hope y'all reach out on TikTok. See you later.
Sure will.
And good
Thank you.
luck, everyone. Power
You
to the
too.
people. Let's go.
Thank you. All right. Who's left? Zeb, Colin, Peter. Yes, and Mr. Summers. Hello. Okay, go ahead, y'all. Who wants to go next?
All right, I will.
Okay,
So
go
we
ahead.
break things down pretty simply into affordability, accountability, progress, and just the top policy from each of those categories, affordability, into the tariffs. Most practical way of doing that is return to the constitutional order under which Congress imposes tariffs, not the president. We take away the president's power to do that. Not just this president, but any president. Any presidentially authorized tariff needs congressional authorization after 6 months. Easy, simple policy. After this damage, probably not too hard to pass. For accountability, obviously that's going to be inquiries into cabinet level officials, honesty, corruption in those offices. On a more policy-oriented level, I think we really need to start looking at serious legislation to limit quality, especially on the federal level for officials who violate the civil rights of people subjected to law. Like I said, I'm a university professor. This is a hugely important issue to me. What I mean very specifically there on the policy level, restoring grant funding for basic scientific research, for medical research. We've had people kicked out of cancer trials because somewhere in the grant documents it mentions diversity of populations who are receiving experimental medicines, and program officers appointed by Elon Musk who have no idea how this works see the word diversity and think this needs to be destroyed. We're burning down the engine of America's economic progress and our strength by limiting universities, limiting basic scientific research. Congress has a responsibility to step in and end that. And so it really comes down to ending tariffs, accountability for federal officers, and then finally restoring that basic science funding and the strength to the universities that drive American progress. To the question of reparations, again, I mean, this is going to be an unpopular answer in a lot of ways, but I've got to be honest about it. I don't think it's politically possible. I don't think it's something that's going to happen in our lifetimes. I think it's an important conversation to have. I want that conversation to be had and keep happening because we learn a lot through that conversation that helps refocus us on what happened in the past and what's going to happen in the future. But I don't see a policy that looks like and is called reparations being passed by any Congress in our lifetimes.
Okay.
Yeah. Go
Chuck.
to Chuck. Mhm.
Okay.
So
Got my head, girl.
I'm sorry.
so I have on my website, it's called Project 2029, and it's a compilation of policies of what I think it's going to take to get our democracy back to the people. And it needs to be backed up with legislation. And then it's a 3-part process. And then the third part is a candidate's pledge. And what I would like to do when I get to Congress is go to everybody, and I've got it all laid out, and have you sign that candidate's pledge. And if you won't sign it, that tells me you're there for the wrong reasons. You're there for your own personal gain, not to represent the people. And if you do that, we need to primary you, get you out of the office, because if you're not there, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, and you need to go. But my one big policy that I would love to do, or that I would like to get enacted, is the PRO Act. And I believe that the way we rebuild our middle class is by making it easier for people to form unions. And so service industry workers can have collective bargaining to where they can have fair wages, benefits, and retirement. So we quit subsidizing the profits of billionaires. So my big policy proposal would be the PRO Act. And I agree with Colin on the reparations. I think we need to have the conversation, but I don't think it's politically possible in this environment. So I think there's ways we can go about doing it. I've got some other ideas on how we rebuild our inner cities and the education system and some stuff like that to actually kind of enact it without actually calling it that. But yeah, that would be my answer.
All right, Zeb, what you say? First go with your policies that you want to see, and then your answer on the reparations.
Yes. So when it comes to day one policies, what I would really love to see is a funded mandate to every public school to build out hydroponic and greenhouse farms at every public school in the country. And then also funding it so that they can have classes on agriculture, so that kids are not only growing their own food that they're eating in the cafeteria that they can take home with them, but it just addresses this deep disregard we've had with our actual origins as humans, and like the separation between the food that we eat and the work that's actually required to go into it. I think that needs to be addressed. So I would love if we could get that done on day one, and get those built out at all schools. In regard to the reparations question, I am for reparations, and I'm not just going to say that because I'm Black, but I'm for reparations for everyone that the empire has, over the centuries of its existence, have destroyed. I think about the Pacific Islands and how many of them have been made uninhabitable because of our atomic testing. There's one, I forget, I don't know if it's Guam or Samoa, but the dome they put over one of the experimentation sites is collapsing. And the US government is doing nothing to talk about the fact that this radiation is about to start leaking into all of these communities. That is reparations. We must do things to rectify the great harm that has been done over generations. And so what exactly does that look like? I don't think it looks like cash payments, because you can't just give money to people that do not have the resources and the education to properly manage their finances. You can't just send cash to everybody. That's a bad idea. But it does look like investments in communities. We know what the problem in certain communities are, whether it's Black communities, Hispanic communities, indigenous communities, just like the large amounts of disappearing women on reservations. Like, we know what minority communities are facing in this country, and reparations means addressing those at their root and stopping them in their tracks. So again, exactly how this policy unfolds, not sure, but it is something that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. Who else has not spoke about their policies yet?
Peter.
Peter, all right.
Yeah, I think I'm the last one on this. So I will just say, if we're talking day one, I'm actually with Colin on this. We roll back illegal tariffs. Like, if you want to know what's going to have an immediate positive impact on affordability for Americans across the country, it's rolling back illegal tariffs that the Trump administration has put into place and reasserting congressional authority over that process. That is a day one priority. The other two policy preferences or priorities that I have on my website focus on integrity within the government and then the health of our communities. I would say that the second, because this is, again, if we're talking day one, I will sign on to the discharge petition to go ahead and say, let's ban illegal stock trades for individual members of Congress and their immediate families. Like, again, that's a day one thing that you can do that has an immediate impact. The third one, and I don't believe this is necessarily a day one, but I believe that it could be done within the next 2 years, which is we need to have that conversation about providing healthcare access to all Americans, independent of employment. Right? It needs to be healthcare access, just broadly accessible to all Americans. This is one of those issues where the United States has the largest economy in the world. We're the only developed economy that hasn't implemented a solution to this. And I'm not saying that we need to cut and paste somebody else's solution here. We are unique in our structure, but we can figure this out and we know what this can look like. We are well past time on implementing something. This is a problem that is creating issues across the board for all Americans of all types. And I know I live in a fairly rural district, so I've got a mix of rural and suburban and a little bit of urban environments. Rural communities have been hit hardest by the cessation of the ACA funding. And that funding immediately hits in emergency care services. So if you're in a rural community and you have an emergency health crisis, there are now fewer nurses, fewer EMS, fewer physicians that can provide immediate care to you as a direct result of the ACA subsidies getting written out by the big, beautiful bill over this last year. We're killing people. And I'm not saying that ACA is the best financial solution, but there is a solution that we can reach that benefits Americans broadly. That would be the focus here. Let's roll back illegal tariffs. Let's ensure that Congress has some enforced integrity, and let's make sure that basic human needs like healthcare are addressed across the nation. As far as reparations are concerned, I actually really appreciate, Zeb, just the thoughtfulness of your answer in this space. And I'll be fully transparent. So I come from a military background, right? My family has been here in one way or another since before the country was a country. And we have had members serve in the military or public service or public roles for a very long time. The concept of reparations is one that, as an individual who's never existed in this space where I have been systematically oppressed, is not one that I feel particularly informed to talk about in a way that I think is going to be meaningful to communities that have experienced that kind of repression and systemic oppression across their life cycles. And so I appreciate individuals who have more experience than me coming to the conversation and saying, this is what it could look like, right? Support for communities, broadly speaking, to say, hey, we know where the problems are. Let's make sure that resources are invested appropriately so that those communities can benefit. I am 100% in favor of that kind of governmental action to help support Americans. As far as other kinds, I'm just not here to go ahead and say that I have lived that space in my life to be able to definitively say what is right or wrong. But I do believe that government exists to help people. And we should be using governmental resources to help our most vulnerable communities, 100%.
Absolutely. So we're going to get Justin and Dr. Candice's opinion about reparations. I do want to just point out that, as you just said, Peter, that, this is something that isn't on your radar due to the fact that you necessarily haven't lived an oppressed existence, so to speak. But as wanting to be a member of the United States Congress, we need you to be informed of those things, because we cannot get reparations if not for you all passing the amendments, the bills, the policies to get said reparations. So we absolutely need you to be educated on it in order to have a decision about it, because it will be up to you. So Justin, I'm gonna do you first. What's your opinion about it?
Well, I start with look, reconciliation requires that defrauded parties be made whole. So I think I think that's a really important part of racial reconciliation. And I emphasize defrauded parties because I think the economics is what we're talking about when we're talking about reparations. We're talking about the economic standing of individuals. And, I've been listening and learning a lot even about the Japanese internment camps and how property was taken from them. And ultimately how there was, after that, reparations that were put in place, but nothing close to what actually was taken from them, and so, and there were all kinds of requirements on it too. You actually had to, I think, be the individual who was, and many of them had already, at that point had long passed. And so I just say this to say, I think with that kind of value, that true reconciliation is going to require that defrauded parties be made whole. I think the idea that there's a lot of ways to get there, as already stated, there's ways in which we can get there through policy. There's ways in which, obviously, there's been arguments in the past for, lump sum payments to individuals in the sense of checks in that way. I think it looks like, increased access and opportunity potentially, but I do think there's a pathway toward that for sure. And it's something that I would support. I think it has to happen if we're going to see the true reconciliation on that. Again, what it looks like, what I would support. I'm not going to say I would support this right now. It's not something I've thought a ton about. It's certainly something I've thought about, but not something I've thought about from a policy perspective. But I do think I could go right to, right here, redlining, a common practice, right? And people were kept from the purchasing power of a house and the ultimate economic standing that it gives you to have the ability to purchase a house and begin to build, this equity that gets passed down generation to generation to generation. And so I think giving people access to better housing options that ultimately where they can have maybe a step up or an opportunity forward for housing that builds more equity. I think there's some creative ways there around housing that could immediately, begin to repair some of that. So that would be something that I might support.
100. All right, Dr. Candice, let's hear what you have to say about this. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Did you mute me?
I did. You was good. You were typing it away. But go ahead.
So I make sure I wasn't going to say the wrong thing when I started talking about this. So I think that this is a multi-layered issue. I fully support reparations because I acknowledge that historically there have been a lot of decisions made that have oppressed Black people, period. And especially here in Alabama, we have seen schools be underfunded because schools are purely funded with property taxes, and property values are low in certain areas that are still to this day systemically segregated. So if we don't make investments in those communities are going to continue to suffer, and it is still systemically segregated. So does reparations look like sending out a check to every person? No. Reparations looks like throwing back to Obama's, and see, my computer went black, so it's gone again. But Obama had the American something or another, but basically investing back into these communities, these marginalized communities that I'm talking about. And we saw a great return on that. There's a lot of communities here in North Alabama that are still benefiting from that funding. And it's been proven time and again that when we take funding and give it to groups so that they can spend it how they see fit for their community, it goes further. So that is what we need to see more of. And we need to move forward with intention and straight acknowledgement of the historical segregation that has happened. When I started running, now I'm going to soapbox a little bit, but stay with me on this. When I started running, there were plenty of people who kept telling me, oh, well, we invited Black people. Why aren't they coming to our protests? Why aren't they coming to our meetings? Why aren't they doing this? And it's because they have groups. They've been doing this for 200 years. If you just went and teamed up with them, we would be able to move these communities forward. You are trying to save someone who is already saving themselves, right? So I think these are things that we have to continue to keep in mind as we move forward and intentionally rebuild these things like the Department of Education with those things in mind to take care of those communities.
Excellent answer. Okay, well, look. So I'm just gonna let the audience know, everyone on here know, this is our vote. That way, no, wait, whatever. This is our vote count second page here, next to me. And so if you have not followed it, please follow. It's just in case something happens to this page. We do have a backup page. We know TikTok can be very fickle and will boot you out of here at any moment. So we have a backup page. We want you all to follow so that in case we need to go live on the backup page, or we have it ready to go. This has been an absolute wonderful round table. I am going to do one more round of individual answers, and then we'll be out of here. My last thing I want to ask you all, who is your pick for presidency for the Democratic Party? I just throw a name out there, whether or not they're going to do it, whether or not you think they can do it. Give me a name that you think exemplifies what this party is about and who you think can win a presidency in 2028. Peter.
There are two, and they're evenly tied.
One second. After you give me that answer, I then want you to let everyone know how they can get in touch with you. Again, remind everybody where you're running and how they can help support you. So go ahead with your pick.
AOC and Pete, like those are my two top picks, and they're pretty close in mind right now because I think they both reflect American values. They're individuals that have a track record of public service. They care, which I think is incredibly important. They care. And I think that either of them would be absolutely fantastic and helping guide the Democratic Party in a direction that would serve Americans more broadly. So those are my two. As far if you want to get a hold of me, I have a website. It's petercrosbyforcongress.org. I have a wide variety of social media accounts. I will be very transparent. I do work full time, so if you reach out to me on social media, I do a once a week update on Friday nights where I try and cram everything in. Do not expect like a 5-minute. He's going to go ahead and DM me back because I'm probably working my day job.
All right, and you're running in where?
My apologies. I am running in northern Utah, which is currently District 2, but we'll see what the redistricting does.
All right, Mr. Collins, your answer.
Buttigieg. I think it's a good answer for AOC too, but I think Buttigieg is more winnable. And I think that matters a lot because we've got to start winning to change some of the stuff we're looking at. I'm running in central and western Kansas. You can find me at colinforkansas.com. That's COLIN for Kansas.com, just one L. And thank you so much. Looking forward to talking to everybody again.
Is it the number 4 or the word 4?
Oh, thanks so much for asking that. FOR, letters.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Zeb, who you picking?
2028 is Andy Beshear, governor of Kentucky, Democrat, won 2 terms in a red state, so I think he could help pick up the South. And you can find me at zebtaylor.com. That's DEBTAYLOR.com.
All
Thank
right,
you for having me.
perfect. Thank you. Justin.
You're going to make me pick. Look, we don't know who the field is, but I'll just say this. I have great respect for Governor Shapiro. I've got to know him and seen his leadership right here in Pennsylvania. And assuming he decides to run, I think he would be a great candidate for president. With that, I'm Justin Douglas. I'm running for Congress in Pennsylvania's 10th district. If you know who Scott Perry is, that's who I'm running to defeat. He's had a stranglehold on this and ultimately is very connected to the Trump administration. He's been in this district for a long time. We need to defeat him. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to justindouglas.us. I'm very active on socials. We try to post content regularly. We've done a lot of town halls and there's a lot of question and answers there. There's probably more policy if you scroll through my Instagram than you're going to find on my website. But that's kind of how we like it because we find that's where most people connect. So please connect with us, follow us, and reach out and ask questions.
Absolutely. Chuck Summers.
So I would like to see Harris run again. I think she got 77 million votes. She's got a record to run on. Her administration, Biden-Harris administration, passed historic legislation that they did not brag about. She needs to be out. I would like to see her in the fight right now, taking the fight to Trump and the Republicans. I think she's got a wonderful record to run on. She's got my vote. My name is Chuck Summers. I'm running Missouri 2nd Congressional District. My website is chucksummers.org. And on all the social media platforms, just look for Summers for Congress, and you can find me on every social media platform.
Excellent. Dr. Candice?
So my first choice right now is Pete, purely because my soul needs to see his family in the White House. I think that's the cleansing that the White House needs. But I am also keeping a very close eye on J.B. Pritzker because I want to see what he's going to do, and I haven't decided if I trust him. So with that being said, I am Dr. Candice Duvieilh. I am running for Congress in Alabama's 5th district. That is Jackson, Morgan, Madison, Lawrence, Limestone, and a little sliver on the eastern side of Lauderdale County. And it does include Rocket City. You can find all of the information about me in the place on my bio, which is CandiceDuvieillForCongress.com. Duvieilh is a mouthful, which is why I'm suggesting the bio. I am Candice for Congress everywhere except for the main Meta platform, which is Candice Duvieilh for Congress.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Did you want to say something, Colin? I thought I saw you raise your hand. Okay. Well, I appreciate each and every one of you taking your time out today to have this conversation. Like I said, look to your left, look to your right, look up. This may be your classmate of the 120th congressional class. Yeah. So I like I said, this has been a wonderful conversation. You all are invited back to our next town hall. Our next roundtable, which will be in 2 weeks. We do it every 2 weeks. So I don't have a calendar on me right now, but give us 2 weeks. We'll have another roundtable. You're welcome to come back in and listen. You're welcome to join. If you get sent an invitation to come back, then reply and let us know. We will try, like I said, get a whole new panel of people or some return folks. We need each and every one of you out there in the audience. Follow all of these candidates. If you know anyone in their districts, if you know anyone, if you are in their district, this is what we do. We want to inform you of who is running, who is trying to actually make a change for this here government. I get so frustrated with people saying, oh, the government's corrupt. No, the government's not corrupt. The people in government are corrupt. So if you put the right people in that government, we will have a strong, successful, active, progressive government.
Amen.
So we need all of you to make sure you are voting in the primaries. Find out when your primaries are. The general will be in November of 2026. We are almost there. It is almost 2026, guys. So it won't be long. I need you to be on your P's and Q's and have all your information. We do have we will be returning with our town halls come January 6th. We will have a new town hall starting January 6th with John Copit. And so be looking out for that. Again, if you have not followed Our Vote Counts Too, please do that. And so the next roundtable is January 4th. And then the next town hall is January 6th. So let me remind everyone, we are OVC, Our Vote Counts. We are a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans from all walks of life. That is people from Alabama, Ohio. I'm sorry, not Ohio. Ohio too, but Utah, Kansas, Missouri, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. That is who is on our panel today from all walks of life. To empower voters, support candidates of integrity, and ensure that every voice is heard through education, outreach, accountability, and action. We're building a stronger democracy, one informed vote at a time. So thank y'all for joining us today. And remember, your vote is your power. Go, Justin. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I appreciate you all. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.